I'm Emily Mashak, and you are listening to Tuned Into NoCo, Town Square Media's show that lets you know what matters in NoCo. I'm talking today with Marcia Argust, the project director of Restore America's Parks with the Pew Charitable Trusts, about the Great American Outdoors Act. So thank you for joining me today, Marcia.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, what is the Pew Charitable Trusts?
Pew is a nonpartisan, independent foundation, and we receive our money from an endowment, which makes us a little different from some other groups that you may have had on the show.
How did you find your way to the Pew?
I have worked with Pew Charitable Trust, uh, for a number of years. I started as a grantee, I guess over 17 years ago now, and then started working for Pew directly maybe 10 years ago. So have been with Pew for quite a while. And the trusts work on a number of issues covering health, prison reform, research, and conservation. And I'm lucky enough to work on our parks program.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations on that. And I know that you're also the project director for Restore America's Parks. What is that initiative? Tell me more about that.
So, our parks program has been around for about 5 years, and it is focused on protecting the national park system, cultural resources, natural resources, by addressing the backlog that has been challenging our park service for a number of years now, the repair backlog that is now estimated to cost $12 billion to fix.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How did we get to this point?
So this has been an issue that's been building for quite some time now. And we've arrived at this situation for a number of reasons. One, our national park system is over 100 years old. So it's natural that certain facilities and infrastructure are aging and deteriorating. Add to that that the Park Service welcomes over 325 million visits each year, and that's an additional wear and tear on some of these aging facilities. And then the agency simply hasn't received enough maintenance funding over the years to keep up with repair needs. So if you take those factors into account, you have this perfect storm where you've got this backlog that's accrued over the years.
Right. Now, we're here today to talk about the Great American Outdoors Act. What is this bill and what would it do?
Well, it's a great solution to the challenges the Park Service is facing in terms of maintenance. It would be the largest investment in the restoration of park repairs in a generation since the 1950s. So it's long overdue. It would direct approximately $6 billion over 5 years to priority needs that the park system is facing. This would be non taxpayer money. And again, this would be over 5 years. So the Park Service would be addressing priority needs at its units in almost every park unit in every state throughout the country.
I imagine that it is different depending on the park, but can you detail what some of these priority needs are in general?
In general, we're talking about buildings, historic structures, visitor centers, ranger housing. We're talking about roads that are crumbling, trails that are eroding, but also traditional infrastructure that you may not think of as being in parks, but it's there. Wastewater systems, electrical systems, water lines. Many of these systems are 50, 60, 70 years old. And, there's pipes that are breaking routinely. They're leaching into the surrounding regions in a park. So those are some examples. There's also traditional memorials that need repairs. In Washington, D.C., the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, the Washington Monument. These monuments are very old and deteriorate. There's also cemeteries and battlefields that need to be taken care of as well. So all these things cost money.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm out here in Colorado, and here it is just nature is a part of our life. We're always in parks and looking at our state's history, but I know a lot of people don't have this issue on the forefront of their minds. So, in your opinion, why is it so important to take care of America's parks?
Well, I will tell you, Senator Gardner in Colorado certainly has this issue on his mind because he was the lead sponsor in the Senate of this bill. And I think one of the reasons he thinks about this issue is because of the economic benefits to Colorado. Your state is getting 7 million visitors a year just coming to the park units. They're spending over $500 million in local communities, and that's supporting 7,300 jobs each year. So it's really important that the parks are maintained. Rocky Mountain National Parks gets 4 million of those visitors. So that park needs a lot of maintenance work, not just for trails that the visitors, that's a very tangible need that the visitors can see. Mesa Verde, which is such an incredible park unit in Colorado and one of my favorites, has those cultural resources. And a lot of those archaeological sites, need to be stabilized. That's certainly a need. But what visitors may not think about is the water system that runs through a pipeline that originates from a mountain range that's 17 miles away. And sections of that pipeline have been degrading for years and need repairs. So these are all types of things that need to be addressed. And this legislation, which again has passed the Senate and House, and hopefully will be enacted into law shortly. These are the types of repairs that we hope will be addressed by this bill.
Right. And then you mentioned that Congress has passed the bill. What's next for it? What is that process like?
So the president has indicated his support, and we are hoping he will sign this into law next week. And then the next steps are for the Park Service to put together a list of these priority repairs. Within 90 days, they present that list to Congress, and the money should be available the first day of the fiscal year, which will be October 1st. So, this isn't far off, right? We're talking about tangible results. Repairs should be starting soon, assuming this is enacted. That is money in the pockets for people who will be working on these repairs. And I think local economies will see the results of that as well, and visitors and park resources. So this is a benefit in so many ways.
What can listeners do outside of politics on a more general day-to-day level to take care of America's parks?
When people go to parks, well, certainly right now during the pandemic, you need to be aware of what's going on. Visit nps.gov before you leave. See if that park site is open. If it's a smaller historic site, it may not be open. And be aware on popular trails. There may be places where you need to wear masks, even outdoors on popular trails. But also, be aware of people around you. If you're bringing in trash, take it out with you. I mean, these are very, very simple things. And if people are interested in learning more about the repair backlog issue, they can visit pewtrust.org and type in Restore America's Parks.
Great resource. Thank you for sharing that. What else would you like listeners to know today?
Protecting our parks and our public lands It's really, I think, the bipartisan support for protecting our parks and our public lands has shown that investing in these resources is our common ground. And this is the type of legislation that Americans want to see Congress implementing.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Marcia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, that was Marcia Argust, Project Director for Restore America's Parks with the Pew Charitable Trusts. To learn more about Restore America's Parks and the Great American Outdoors Act, visit pewtrusts.org.